Hi, this is Andrew Morrison from Mentoring in Medicine, and welcome to another Motivational Mondays. We have none other than Dr. Torres here, and every Monday night, our job is to give you the insight, give you the strategies for you to be able to reach your goals. Whether you want to become a nurse practitioner, a MD, a PA, a biomedical scientist, even a medical illustrator, surgical tech, you name it. There will have 125 different healthcare careers. And Motivational Mondays, we're bringing you the individuals who've been there, who've done it. They've got the proverbial T-shirt, and they want to be able to support you as well. So, Dr. Torres, welcome to our program.
This is an honor to be here. I was invited by Lynn Holden, who's one of the people who helped me in my journey to be where I'm at. So I told her I owed her getting in, and then I owe her forever. So this is a small payback.
All right, great. I love it. So tell me a bit more about your background.
I'm the son of immigrants, a Salvadorian mother who met my father, who's Dominican, in Roslyn, New York. That's no other way they would have met. They were immigrants working, and they fell in love and made some kid called Torres, their firstborn, me. Who would think of calling me Jose Dionisio Torres Jr., a very
Wow.
Dominican name? And I got raised in Long Island, in Westbury. For
Okay.
those who don't know, Westbury is a unique experience. It is, everyone thinks of it as the North Shore and white. It is not. It is very diverse. Diverse and segregated in a weird way. Politically, economically, interesting.
Is there like a railroad track that separates people?
There are, but somehow in the span of a couple of blocks, neighborhoods change dramatically from all Italian to West Caribbean to all American Black. And then
Wow.
a whole diversified middle area that people don't know what they are, and they're just happy to be Westburians.
So you went to high school in the old Westbury?
In Westbury, so I went to public school.
Okay.
I didn't do well enough in Catholic school. Kind of expensive to read a Bible and fail first grade. That's what happens when you don't have ESL and you learn English from TV because your parents don't know English.
Wow, you failed first grade.
I did not understand anything that was going on in first grade. All kids graduate kindergarten. It's hard to fail paint and clay and counting one.
You forgot to color in the lines, right? You didn't color in the lines properly.
Well, I graduated kindergarten, but first grade, it was like Charlie Brown.
Wow.
Remember, like listening to your teacher and when the adults talk in Charlie Brown cartoons.
Oh man. So you survived first grade. Where did you go to college?
I went to public school through high school. I went to a school that's all predominantly Black. At that time, Salvadorians were not a large population in Long Island. I was one of the few kids. All my friends were Black.
Oh, wow.
Like, so people were like, you know, they look at my reunion pictures, they hang out with my friends. And I was like, the first thing they say, they're Black. And I was like, who cares? They're my friends.
Right.
Right. So somehow I survived public school. I didn't go to public school and I got into Brown. So I got into some, and people say, Brown, is that a Black school? And I'm like, no.
Wow.
I was like, it's a school somewhere up north.
Brown University.
Providence, Rhode Island. I survived college. I thought college was harder than medical school.
Are you serious? Wow.
Well, because it's so different. College is you're by yourself. A whole bunch of kids who think they're adults.
Wow.
Just learning how to, you know, socialize with different people from different perspectives all over the United States. And I didn't even know if I could survive pre-med. That's one of the biggest obstacles in getting into medical school.
I know.
Pre-med is the requirement of 8 classes.
Gee.
8 classes on top of your major. So what you realize is your major, you have to do well in your major,
right,
whatever you specialize, and you have to do well in your pre-med. And it's basically, it'd be nice to have a 4.0 perfect grade, but it's hard to do it in life, right?
Right,
so
right.
Highest grades. So you aim for the highest grades in both your your specialty, whatever you want. And in the end, guess what my specialty wound up being?
What?
Visual arts. I was an art major.
Wow, you were arts major. Geez, so now,
You do not have to do sciences. It's convenient because if you take the 8 classes you did for pre-med, you take 2 extra classes and you become a biology major.
wow.
I'm not going to be a biologist. I'm not going to go to science and work for Pfizer and look at biology. Like, if I work for Pfizer, it'll be as a big dog, as an MD, as a doctor, right? So people usually become a science major out of convenience. But you get tired of science so much, seeing the same people that are so competitive over grades, you wanted a break. So I started learning. I've been drawing all my life.
You're an artist?
Yeah, I dabble. I stopped painting because you need a big room with a lot of ventilation. If not, your eyes turn red and people think you're high. because painting with oil paints, to me, is the greatest thing. It's so old school. You make mistakes, you paint over it. You let it dry and you paint over it. So I used to love it, but I stopped. But it was wonderful not to be around my classmates who were trying to become doctors in pre-med because it was a break.
Right. So now what medical school did you go to?
Well, my advisor didn't think my grades would be good enough. He told me I should become a teacher or something.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I took a year off.
Wow.
I thought of taking my grades again. He says my grades weren't top gun enough.
Wow.
And then you know what I said? It's not gonna hurt to try. I spent a lot of money on the applications and I got into Columbia.
Are you serious?
So this man who thought I was not gonna make it and didn't have the goods, went to the oldest hospital, the oldest medical school in the country.
What was your science GPA undergrad, if you don't mind sharing?
It had to be like 3.2.
Wow.
But it wasn't like you think you have to have a 4.0. And I'm not telling you never to aim for the stars, right? I'm never telling you never to do your best. Right. But I got into Brown because I also played football in high school. And I played sports. So to play sports and do pre-med and be serious of pre-med, you had no life. Like college was not as fun as everyone thinks it is. When you study on a Saturday and a Sunday and on a Friday night. Because I did not want to take these classes again.
What was your position? What position did you play in football?
Well, I wish I was 6 foot, but I'm like 6 inches shorter. So I'm 5'6". But I was a stocky kid, 205 pounds.
Wow.
And I could squat 545 pounds. So I was a strong little man. I was a little fire hydrant and I could run. I wasn't fast. I was fast enough. But I played with the Ivy League. So whatever, got me in.
You were a running back?
Yeah, I was a fullback.
Wow, you were a fullback. So you went from a fullback in college to now, what type of medicine do you practice?
So luckily during undergrad, I fell in love with a show called ER. And at that time, it was the #1 drama show in the world, the United States at least. And I was like, wow, the medicine was interesting. You fall in love with the drama of the actors, but it was the medicine that was interesting. Wow. Like saving lives with some crazy ass maneuvers or procedures. So I kept watching the show in undergrad at Brown. I kept watching the show at Columbia. I thought I was gonna do pediatrics. I love kids. I realized, no offense to all those who want to be pediatricians, I can't stand the parents. Kids are beautiful. Parents, oh my God. And then I thought I'd be orthopedics because it'd be cool to break bones or have fixed bones and fix them with metal, with wires, with casts. And then you realize it's very mechanical. You're like a mechanic. And it's cool for certain things, but for other things, I was not interested. And ER, for some reason, it got my interest. And I'm gonna tell you, it was not easy. It was my first rotation doing emergency medicine that someone said my grades or my knowledge base was not up to par.
Jeez.
And I was told to be a pediatrician or family medicine doctor because you have to be smart to be emergency medicine. Wow. And this guy kept asking a lot of questions, and I didn't answer all the questions to his approval. And he's like, "You're not that smart."
Oh,
he told me this. And I was like, wow. I was like, I just tried this to see if I liked it. And all you did is you try to, it's weird. You try out and they think you need to know all the answers. And all he did is bash me. And I thought I was going to quit doing emergency medicine. But then my next rotation, I met Lynn Holden. I rotated 2 different locations at Jacoby and Montefiore in the Bronx. And they learned that I worked hard. I had a lot of common sense. I looked like the people. I spoke like the people. I spoke Spanish. Number one thing being a translator in the Bronx. Speaking Spanish, even Spanglish helps.
Right.
And I remember working with Lynn Holden, who got me invited to this, and she was like, "You are very entertaining. You made my shift a good shift." And she was like, "Why?" Because you could actually mimic what the patients had wrong.
Right.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Hey, man, this guy doesn't look right." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's just shivering and he's turning blue. And he was like, "You're a funny mother." And I was like, "I ain't trying to be funny. I'm just telling you, this guy is sick." And I was like, "I don't know about the labs, but he's sick." And
And then plus, you being able to squat 500 pounds, I'm pretty sure when they had to yell security, you were able to kind of stand there and calm some of these patients down.
Well, hey, all I know is I'm a short, swarty guy, right? 5'6" with broad shoulders, right? Never had much hair. The weird thing is, not all those patients would ever think I was a doctor. Wow. They would ask me, "Are you a nurse? Are you a custodian? Are you a phlebotomist?" And I was like, "I'm serious. I'm a doctor.
Get my food for me, man. Get my food."
No, well, they were so used to thinking of an idea of an older white man with a white beard and yarmulke, a Jewish guy or an Asian guy from India or China from being a doctor. And I was like, I am an MD because I earned this. And I don't know what stereotype you live in.
That's what's up, man. I
appreciate that I am helping you, regardless of what I look like. Right? Like,
wow, that's a great story. That's a great story. So tell me more about an interesting case. Tell me about an interesting case.
So I joke with my residents, right? So first years, so emergency medicine, you either get trained in 3 years or get trained in 4 years. 4 years are like the older dogs, the old programs, academic. The 3-year ones are guys who are just trying to get their knowledge base and start working in emergency medicine. They're not always academic, but you can have very smart people doing that. So I joke with my residents. So when they're a PGY 1, 2, 3, or 4, because I work at 2 locations. I work at Kings County in Brooklyn, but I also work in Flushing, Queens at New York Presbyterian Queens.
Cool.
Populations are different, entirely different, diverse, but different. In Kings County, it's either Caribbean Black people or African American Black people, and a little bit of Hispanics, and occasionally, Caucasians. But in New York Presbyterian Queens, it's Chinese, at least 20%, 20% Korean, 20% Hispanic, and then whatever else in the world shows up. Either you're Indian, Caucasian, Russian, Orthodox Jewish. So I joke with my residents that I'm a PGY 20. Right? And they look at me like, what that mean? If I were still in training, and I tell them I'm still in training every day I see something new, and I read a new book or I read a new article. I'm constantly learning.
That's great.
So I tell them I'm trying to be humble because I'm constantly have to be, no offense to them, I have to be smarter than you because I'm your teacher.
Right.
Doesn't that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yoda is smart because he keeps on learning, not because he remembers what he remembered 500 years ago. He remembers, right? So I tell the residents that you cannot be outdated. And in a weird way, you use pride in a good way. I have the pride as a teacher to know what I'm doing so I can teach you.
Right.
Right. Stories, some are sad, some are exciting, some are offensive, some are like demoralizing, right? Because the weird thing is you realize how people are when they're at their weakest.
Right.
They either become very strong and they tell you things, or they get very weak and they tell you things. or when they get very scared, they can be offensive or apologetic.
Wow.
That's the scary thing about it. You see people very vulnerable because they don't know what's going on and maybe they're dying, or you're just giving them confidence that they're not dying.
Right.
Um, so it's hard. I don't know, like, and then I used to be very outspoken when I was younger. I
Right.
started getting more and more quiet because you never know what shows up.
That's true.
I
That's
just
true.
give an eye roll when someone tells me something's wrong, and I'm like, "You sure?" And then I figure it out for myself. If he's not that sick, I tell him, "You're not that sick." And everyone behind me who's overhearing because they have big ears, always listening, realize, wow, Dr. Torres is right, and he broke it down. He broke it down to the nurse, broke it down to the patient. He's not that sick. But guess
Wow.
what? When the patient's not really that sick, I will resuscitate like Lazarus. I will do my best. And if I fail, I fail, but I do my best in keeping you alive.
So
Um,
break this down for me. What's the best advice you would give your younger self?
so the hard part about life, right, is not having regrets, right? So, so my kids don't understand that. I always try to achieve the best I can do. And sometimes you're the small fish, sometimes you're the big fish in the pond. They don't know that I was valedictorian in middle school. They don't know I was valedictorian in high school. I never aimed for that. I just worked so hard that it wind up happening. And when you get to a big
Wow.
pond like Brown or Columbia, these Ivy League schools, a lot of smart kids. But guess what? You work hard and worry about you. If you ever watch a race, the guy who loses is the one who's looking over constantly on someone else. The guy who knows he has talent and has faith in himself, he's looking straight away as if he's gonna win the race. And only at the end he realizes did he win the race or not. All you can do is achieve what you can achieve to be the best. You can't look at what the grades your colleague has or not. You got to worry about you. Because guess what? There's eventually an interview, there's eventually your activities. Every resume, when you apply for medical school, is different. So I can't worry about my colleague on the right. He could be my friend, and if he failed the test, I'll say, hey, don't fail the next one. Or do you need help with tutoring or whatever? But I can't take tests for him, and he can't take tests for me. You got to worry about you,
Hmm.
right? You like, if your finish line is a goal to become the doctor, and if it's that great to be, you will overcome all the obstacles you need to and not make excuses.
Wow. I
Because
love
in
it.
life, no one cares. No one cares about your excuses.
I tell people that
Care about your successes.
I tell people that excuses are tools of the incompetent that build bridges to nowhere. This is truly outstanding. So what's next for you? What's next?
So one thing is, a doctor sometimes believe that all he's worth is becoming a doctor. And I've made good money. I'm not a rich man, but I make good enough money to be able to have a house fixed, to take care of my kids, to make sure they go to good schools. But you should not live for, you should not work for a lifestyle.
Nice.
You should work to be happy.
Nice.
You shouldn't work to impress the neighbor or your friends. You need to work to be happy. That makes sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense. I love it. Let me see if any of our students have any questions. You could raise your hand or enter your questions or comments in the chat room. We're here with Dr. Torres, and we're getting a lot of great wisdom from him, from failing first grade, all right, to being the valedictorian in high school, to being a MD right now, working in a very busy emergency room. So now, um, when it comes to emergency medicine, and I know you're right there in the thick of things, what does the future hold? Are you seeing artificial intelligence? Are you seeing robotics? Are you seeing predictive analytics? what are you seeing? Where's the future going?
I think medicine is going to reach out to social media platform, almost like telemedicine. Um, I think where instead of you going to the emergency room, you can actually theoretically reach an emergency room level doctor through the internet, and he can become your screener of how sick you are, and maybe write you a work note. The bad thing about this version is I cannot touch you. I can only visualize what's wrong with you. I can't touch your belly. I can't listen to your lungs. So there's still limits. So I think that's an extension of what emergency medicine can be. The bad part about emergency medicine, it's usually it's the one location out, it's an office. Every bed is like an office room that you cannot refuse a patient based on a law called EMTALA. I have to screen every patient,
Mm,
regardless of their ability to pay or not. So
mm,
I work with the homeless. I work with people who are immigrants who just came to this country. I don't ask their status. It's not my job is to figure out how if they're sick or not. So the issue is I can't do what doctors do in their office, like, oh, you don't have insurance, you can't, I won't accept your insurance, or you unless you pay out of pocket.
right.
That's not my perspective. So that type of care, though, I think is going to reach out. I think the one thing about emergency medicine is we just got to survive COVID
Mm,
because the numbers are down. People like to go to the emergency room as a checkup. There are people who have belly pains for a month or a year, and they come to the emergency room for an emergency, like an emergency ER visit to get an assessment because they know that I cannot turn them down, and they try
mm,
to have me figure out what's wrong with them.
mm. That's their family doctor is emergency room.
It's some people with asthma, they see me more than any other doctor.
Wow.
And it's kind of scary and sad that our system is set up that way.
You're right. That's a good point. That's
I
a
will
good,
always have a role in emergency in the United States because I am the pseudo primary care doctor for the poor.
mm. Wow. This is great wisdom. So as we wrap up, think about a book, a quote, a historical figure, maybe even somebody in your family. I know you mentioned Dr. Lynn Holden, but close us out with some words of inspiration.
You be you. Now, the one thing is, I've learned emergency medicine through guys who are tough on you. And they felt that the idea was if you were tough on you, you get built up and tougher. And then you would teach people to be tough themselves. There's a big danger in our society now that no one's allowed to be tough. People misconstrue that as bullying, being intimidating, derogatory. And I think there are limits to how tough you can be to people. And you still have to be respectful. But emergency medicine can beat you down if you don't build up your character and build up your outer appearance. Even if I'm scared inside, no patient wants to see a scared doctor.
Right.
No nurse wants to go to a scared doctor for orders.
Right.
So if I don't toughen up my students, and I have students that I do Zoom that are attending in Greece becoming ER doctors.
Mm,
I have students who want to be doctors or nurse practitioners. Either on the job, they ask me questions constantly because they're still in school as nurses, or they're paramedics who I said, should I go back in school? And I said, if you go back to school, it's because you don't want regret. You don't want to settle.
right.
So that's the scary part. So some people think I'm rough in the edges, but I was like, hey, I was brought up rough, so I'm a little rough. But just know that if I'm not rough with you, you should be very scared. Because if I'm not talking to you, it means that I don't care. Right? There are people who love to say good job and smile on your face and write horrible evaluations on you.
Stab you in the back.
And I think if you want true equality in life, and in medicine, it's hard to have equality when our numbers are so different, so low.
Right.
We're not representative. Like when I take care of patients in Kings County, or in my hospital, it's not, I'm not, I'm the one Hispanic doctor who speaks Spanish
Wow.
in my department. And I'm like alarmed because I don't make a big deal to my bosses. And they're like, where are all these Spanish doctors? And that starts in high school, in undergrad, and in college. If there are not many of us, there's not much to choose.
Right, right, right. It starts early. Wow.
So, so my path is you be you. But if you have a goal, and maybe if you see that I can do it, then you can do it. Because I'm not a genius. I worked hard and had to study, right? Like I think maybe I had one C in undergrad, and I thought my career was over. Becoming
Wow.
a doctor. Everything else was B pluses or A's, but that was hard. But
Wow.
and if, being a doctor is not easy.
Right.
Uh, That's why some people become nurse practitioners, PAs. There's a lot of burden.
Mhm.
Being the top name on the chart that says Dr. Torres is your doctor. And so,
Well, I can't thank you enough for your words of wisdom. You have definitely, I know, inspired me, and you've inspired so many of our other students. So thank you again for Dr. Torres for being here, and we look forward to, having you come back again in the future.
hey, I could talk about any topic in life. I've had 20 years of talking about good and bad and about emergency medicine. So I'm proud of what I do. I'm not a hero. I do my job.